The initial consultation is a very important part of the attorney-client relationship and good legal representation on a criminal case. In the initial client meeting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and meet with the client. I'm going to get to understand two things. One is to understand the background about them. Have they ever been in trouble before? Have they ever been arrested or accused of similar type crimes before? What is their understanding of the criminal justice system? And also to answer any questions they might have about the process and what to expect. The second part, it really has to do with the client and the case that they're facing at that particular moment in time. I want to start out by getting their side of the story. Usually the initial consultation takes place before I've received any kind of discovery on the matter, before I've had the chance to review police reports. But hearing the client's side of the story can be very important so that later on, when I do get discovery, when I do review police reports and recordings and photographs, I have in mind the client's version of what happened so that I can put things into the correct perspective. In that initial consultation, it's kind of a dual purpose. Not only is it for the client to educate me on those things, but it's also my role to kind of advise them on what to expect, to give them the maximum exposure for the offenses that they're charged with. Maybe to give them realistic expectations such as possible defenses that can be used to kind of push back on the charges they're facing. In the initial consultation, nothing is decided definitively, but it does give the client and the attorney a roadmap of what to expect moving forward. The role of a defense attorney, a criminal defense attorney, in representing a client in these kinds of criminal cases is really to get an overview of the case itself, to very carefully know the client's background, to know their past and any kind of relevant priors they may have had, to understand their perspective on what led up to the current criminal charge. Understanding a client's background is very important towards later on mitigating potentially what happened in the current case. It's also to look at the facts of the current case, to carefully review discovery, and to make sure I'm very prepared to adequately represent and defend the client. The role of a criminal defense attorney is to know the facts, to research and investigate possible defenses, and to guide the client through the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system can be very confusing and complex at times, and especially for a client who hasn't had a whole lot of involvement with the criminal justice system, it may seem daunting. Having a trusted professional, an experienced criminal defense attorney who knows what they're doing, who can help guide the client through what might be one of the toughest chapters of their life and help them to get out on the other side as unscathed as possible is one of the goals of a good criminal defense attorney and their job in representing their client. There's different types of cases that criminal defense attorneys handle. It might be anything from as minor as a misdemeanor charge, maybe it's a assault and battery at a low misdemeanor level, or it might be, a traffic type of an offense. It could be reckless driving. It could be a DUI, driving under the influence. And then it gets more serious as it goes into felonies. Maybe it's a felony DUI based upon prior convictions or because there was someone injured in a car accident of some type. But it gets more serious as well. Generally, when you're talking about crimes being charged against someone, you're talking about the government, the prosecutor, trying to take away your liberty, your freedom, trying to potentially put you in jail. Having a criminal defense attorney who can represent you even going into felonies that potentially could send you to prison and have very serious consequences. All of those kinds of cases, when we're talking about cases involving crimes, being charged against someone, and the government looking to take away your personal liberty, your freedom, that's what we're talking about when we're having criminal defense representation. Some of the challenges that a criminal defense attorney faces in representing their clients is getting into the discovery, but also finding the stuff that's not in the discovery. Typically, discovery such as police reports, interviews with witnesses is done by the police as part of their investigation into a case. A lot of times it contains incriminating evidence against a client. The job of a defense attorney, usually from close consultation and talking with their client, is to find out the possible defenses. Sometimes that will involve finding additional witnesses, talking to them, interviewing them. Sometimes it might be uncovering something in the background of one of the key witnesses that the prosecution has against your client. That type of work requires careful preparation. It requires investigation done in consultation with the client.